Hey there, welcome back to Farmcraft. I'm John, this is Large Marge. I've got a whole series of videos on fixing up this old girl, and we are getting really close, and there's actually a job coming up that I need her for, so let's try to get her fixed up. Now, there's a few more things that I need to do. There's one thing in particular that I really need to get taken care of before I put her back in service. Surprisingly, I don't think I've seen anybody comment on it in this entire series of videos. Don't forget about this. But I haven't forgotten. I've known about it from the beginning. This is one of those jobs that might be pretty easy, but it could also turn into kind of a nightmare. We'll see how it goes. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We are talking about that. The final drive. I have not addressed this at all. You know, the big question is this going to be hard or not? Are these going to come out? They look pretty rough. And if they strip, this is going to turn into a big job, but this absolutely has to be done. Hopefully they're full of oil and not just empty. I've kind of felt bad about this from day one, because when I took delivery of this machine, the delivery driver did not want to come back on my driveway. I should have made him do it, but he didn't. So he delivered way out there. It's like a mile. And I tracked the machine all the way back here. And that obviously will build up some heat in those final drives, and if there's no oil in there, or if the oil's no good, that's no bueno. Since then, I've tracked it very little. You know, I went around the corner there to do a little tree work, but I haven't done anything that would really build up heat in these. But yeah, before I can track this thing around and really get any work done, that has to be addressed. Yeesh, see, look at that rust. That doesn't look great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull forward until this is down. Then the first thing I'm going to do is take out the fill plug. You always want to take out the fill plug first, because if you can't fill it, there's no sense in draining it. Although the reality is those plugs absolutely have to come out of there one way or another. I guess the option is I could take the cover off. Let's not be too pessimistic. Maybe they'll just come out. Maybe. I don't know. They don't look great. Now, a lot of times what I would do to get that oriented is I would bring the boom over here. I'd push down, I'd lift that track up off the ground, and then I can run it and not actually have to move the machine and get that the way I want. I can't do that with this machine. I actually haven't pointed this out. I am exquisitely aware and very paranoid about forgetting. This is not a zero swing machine. This counterweight sticks out well beyond the tracks when it's sideways. So if I were to swing right now, that counterweight would happily take out that post and my lift, collapse the structure. That would be a bad day. So yeah, I cannot swing the boom over there to lift that track up. So all I'm going to do is pull forward. So by my count, I need to go 9 links, 9 plates to get that pointing down. This is one of those jobs that could take you an hour, or it could become a multi-day ordeal depending on what these things do. Yeah. All right. Hey, look at that. That's nice. It's got oil in it. Yep. Wow, doesn't smell bad, doesn't look bad. That's great news. That's a surprise. There it is. Yeah, so I will anneal that and we'll reuse it. Awesome. Yeah, obviously it needs to be changed, but the oil that was in my Yanmar was way worse than this. Nasty smelling black stuff. I don't know. I think this smells burnt. It doesn't smell good. So all you have to do with these to reuse them, as long as they're not torn up, is just soften them so that they'll crush again. And the way you do that is just heat it till it glows. I'm going to then quench it. The quenching doesn't matter. This isn't steel. Steel gets hard. Well, carbon steel gets hard when you quench it. This is copper. The copper gets work hardened and it gets soft when you make it glow, when you heat it. The quenching does not affect the hardness. The quenching is just to cool it off. There. That is now soft no matter what I do. But now I can touch it and it's still soft. You can let it cool slowly, it doesn't change anything. So those are good to go. Click! Alright, so I got my funnel set up so we can fill it back up. It takes about 1.5 gallons. So this is 85-140 GL5 gear oil. That's what it calls for. Well, that thick oil is flowing pretty slow, so I'm gonna start working on this side. Now this would have been an advantage if I was out where I could swing. I could have put them both in position at the same time. Yeah. Hindsight. Smacking these plugs with a hammer is definitely a trick to know for the future. She's loose. Awesome. Alright, if that thing will ever finish filling up with oil, this side's going to be easy too. I got tired of waiting for the funnel and decided to just squeeze it in. Yep. Click! Marge took it easy on me on that one. I like to clean the oil off with brake cleaners so that way I'll know if there's any leaks. So I'm pretty much horizontal now. I'm pointing right there. So that needs to be here. So that is 1, 2, 3. 3 full plates I need to move. Let me point out something that makes me happy. This thing's been run multiple times and been sitting here for a long time. And what do you see? No leaky. Of course, that may change when I actually put it into service and run it hard, but man, what a change. Initially, the injection pump was leaking, the oil pan was leaking, the hydraulic oil cooler was leaking, the engine oil cooler was leaking, the suction line was leaking, There was leaks down underneath in the area of the swivel joint. There was actually a leak, a hydraulic leak over there, a loose fitting, multiple hydraulic lines. I mean, there were leaks everywhere. Look at that. It does make me happy, but it makes me wonder how long until the next leak. I'm beginning to think Marge and I are making friends. Look at that. Oil leaked out of that just from me cracking that thing loose, which means there's oil in this one too. I was really worried I was going to get in here and it was going to be bone dry. Yeah. Looks about the same, no bad smells. Almost seems like somebody maintained this. Let me go and nail these washers and we'll fill this thing back up. It's kind of nice actually, you can see the oil level. Yeah. All right, that's a relief. That had been bugging me for a while, wondering what I was going to find in there. Now I want to mount this very critical piece of hardware. I mean, we're in the middle of a heat wave right now. It's like 9 in the morning and I'm already sweating. Sweating like a dog. Why do they say that? Dogs don't sweat. Anyway, yeah, this is necessary. But it's actually a little more difficult than you might think, just because of the way this door works. You know, I'd like to have it right here so it's pulling fresh air from outside and blowing it right on me. But, so kind of watch this area. Yeah, that entire area, like here. So, I got this flex arm. It's a pretty nice one. It seems pretty strong. It should be strong enough to support it. It's a pretty heavy fan, actually. It's 24 volt, Cleveland, Ohio, accepted. In the back it says made in China. China! Everything's made in China. So I'm thinking probably mounting that there to then move the fan to where I want it, and then when it's time to close the door, I can rotate this guy out of the way. Now I've already gone through the box, and the best switch I found to use is that one, which is windshield wipers that this thing will never have again. I was going to use the washer, but that's a momentary switch. My other options would be the lights, but I could potentially fix the lights in the future, so I kind of don't want to do those. I also checked this switch, which is not used, and it does not seem to work either. And everything else is used. Okay, quit yakking. Let's start working. Now this has, I need to make a plate that's going to mount on that. Actually, make a plate that'll thread onto that. So I've got this piece of aluminum. It's a little thicker than I need, but it'll be light and strong. I'm going to go ahead and take 1/8 of an inch off of it, just because it's bigger than I need. So if you're wondering, a lot of times people will do one hole at a time, drill it, change to the tap follower and tap it, and then go to the next. Well, I'm drilling the first one, and then I am zeroing my digital readout, and then just leave the bit in there, go drill the second one, and then at that point I only have one position saved. I go here, I drill the next one, I do one tool change, go to tapping, and then I can go back to my zero and tap. So I only have to change from bit to tap follower twice to do 4 holes. Saves a little bit of time. So now I'm going to go back to my zero, which is that. And not only does this make sure that your hole's perfectly square, but the tap follower holding it in that position keeps you from torquing on it and makes you much less likely to break it. When, especially these small taps, when you're doing them by hand and you don't have anything supporting the back, you know, you're torquing on it and you put a little bend in there and it just snaps off. All right, we can now screw that onto our mount. That thing's wanting to unscrew, so I'm probably going to have to Loctite that, possibly even drill, screw it down and then pin it. I do have the option to just let it sit right there. Yeah, that'll work. It'll work one way or another. Now we just need to wire it. And we're going to route right through this. All right, so that is a ground. I think this is just going to plug in and latch. This is the switch power that's going to power the fan, and it took a little doing, but I did eventually get it to latch into this connector. Now on the other end, I need a ring terminal for the ground, and then just a butt connector for the hot wire. All right, I've got Loctite on that too. Now this thing relies on, see, it's only got one wire. That's obviously the power. It relies on ground through the case. And I can't ground through this because these have O-rings and that just wouldn't be a good ground anyway. So I've run a ring terminal, which is going to go right there. And that will give me a good ground. And then I proceed to finish the job completely out of frame so that you can't see. What a jerk. And works. And I'll tell you what, that makes a big difference immediately. It is hot today. Just getting some air moving makes so much difference. Whew. So I'm not sure if this arm, which is, it does seem pretty well built, it's all aluminum, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to support this heavy fan. And if that's the case, I see a pretty easy solution. I'm just going to attach a hard drive magnet to it and have it so that it magnets itself right in position there so that it's being supported on both ends. When I need to put the door down, I'm just going to put it in a basically vertical kind of position like that, and it can sit like that. It'll work. Now what are we going to fix? I am now going to fix that horn. Many people commented correctly that I have no way to test this thing, or at least no easy way. The horn is a very important alert system to tell me if the fan belts break, and I need to be able to verify that it works, and hitting a button right here. Great way to do it. And yeah, you never know. You might want a horn just to get someone's attention or something. I was being lazy. Let's fix it. We are in the middle of this appalling heat wave, and I now have a fan up here, so I'm going to use it. So I apologize for the noise. Yeah, obviously if I'm talking, I'll turn the fan off. Hopefully my mic here won't be too affected by it, but it is necessary. So the button works, but it's not getting through down here. I'm attaching some cord to the wire so I can pull that through as I pull the wire out. So this is where it did that hard 90-degree bend in the joystick. What do you bet that's where our problem is? Huh. Yep. And the black one was still hanging on, barely. We're going to eliminate a bunch of these. I'm going to go ahead and solder new wire to that, get rid of all this, and we'll come down through with, I hope I can fish this through, this wire. This is solder wick that I'm using to remove the solder and the old wire from the switch. Darn it, I just realized I should have put some heat shrink on there before I soldered those. I'm not redoing them. Tape it is. They're really not going to touch each other, but I still like to insulate them. That should work fine. Speaking of work, let's make sure it does. Really? Wow. Well, ain't that a kick in the pants? I think heating it up probably from soldering it, which I didn't get it that hot, messed it up. Yeah, because the wires are good. The switch is now not working. So down in here are the contacts. They just move back and forth. This little gizmo is what moves the contact when you press the button. And here are the contacts removed from the case. So this right here was the one that was supposed to be making contact, and you can see it's pretty darn dirty. Darn dirty. So let me clean this up and put it back together. Maybe it'll work. That's all it needed. Can't see a thing. Oh, it does come off. Well, that'll make that a lot easier. I was afraid I was going to break that trying to do that. Yes. I'm just going to make these bullet connectors. They'll be insulated and easy to take apart. Alright guys, I think I might have missed some of that, but I put some bullet connectors, and remember, all they're doing is connecting a circuit. It doesn't matter which way it's hooked up, and it's connecting the horn to ground. And the key is on, so should it work? Does it work? It works. And it's loud. We have a horn, and now I can test my alarm, the cooling belt alarm. One more thing checked off the list. So look at this nonsense. Keys on, ignition's on, fan works. Horn doesn't work. The heck? Well, I do end up finding the problem here, but it's not what you're thinking, and it leaves me thinking, what are the chances? Here's one way to test it. Alright, well, the horn itself is not the problem. I wonder if it's that button. It's weird, I had the cab closed, none of that's gotten wet. Alright, let's tear it open again. Really need something better than this annoying tape. Well, that's weird. Button's working. One of these should be ground. There's your ground. When I hit the button, that becomes ground. Yep. So, it's not anything I did. It's somewhere beyond this. Apparently has another wiring fault. Because of course it does. Alright, so checking this wiring diagram. This is where I check those two leads right beside in the joystick. So I check the switch works, and one of those has a good connection to ground. That's going to be this one, which comes to this 0 wire. That's your ground. So I don't need to check any of those. The other side of the switch should go to junction 30 pin 5. So I should have a good continuity there. That's a direct connection. And I should point out that these connections 17.4 and 17.1, I don't know where those are. They are not in the electrical panel, and they are not in the control box in the cab. So back in here is junction 30. I've unplugged it, and that is pin 5 right there. I got nothing. This is going to be the wire to the horn. This is going to be the other side of the circuit, which goes to the relay K10, and I'll confirm that in just a minute. Let me just make sure there is no connection there. Another wiring fault. Darn gremlins. So then from junction 30 pin 5, there's a diode separating out. That's the cooling belt switch. There's a diode that keeps those separate so that when you press the horn button, it doesn't turn on the light for the cooling belt switch, is the reason for that. Anyway, it should go up to relay K10 pin 2. So let's just verify that that's intact and we know we're on the right wire. 35, it's hard for me to show you, but it's this guy back here. There's even a little diagram on the circuit board right there that shows you the pins. And right there is relay K10, and pin 2 is this one, also on a diagram that's on this board. So yeah, 30 pin 5 does connect to K10 pin 2. So we are on the right track. We just don't have a connection from here to the horn. Marge, Marge, Marge. So those wires go straight back in that conduit there. You can see right there. Goes back out of the back of the armrest in that bundle and then straight down through the floor. And comes out under here, which I currently can't reach with the position that this is in. I need to pull forward so that I can get away from my structure and then swing the boom so that I can get under there. Well, I guess I could have done without this. This is not very accessible at all. So right here is that bundle, and there's the conduit. It immediately dives back and up, and it's really hard for me to show you, but it's this one that the light is on, and snakes its way across, and then is coming up into the compartment where the key switch is, over there. So let's open that up. That's awesome. Guess I have to take that out just to be able to look in there. So before we get too crazy, I'm going to use a new tool here. This is a tone tester, and what it does, you plug it into your wire that you're trying to find the break, and then it puts an alternating current type signal on there that this probe can detect, and obviously the signal won't continue past where it's broken. So this thing's putting out a tone, and you can run this along the wire and, you know, narrow down where it's broken. This might save me a lot of work here trying to find where this thing is going. I almost wonder if it's not going into the control panel there, and this will tell me that if it's continuous. Let's hook it up and see what I can figure out here. So this is the wire we're interested in. And we'll turn this guy on tone. So it's now putting out a tone that this thing can pick up. Yes, I've got good tone going down through the floor. I've got nothing here. There's a little something. So I'm back underneath, and that's where the wires are heading up to that box, and I've still got a good signal. So, well, it certainly doesn't come over here. These are all the wires that go into this control panel. No tone. This is definitely going to be a handy tool in the future. I'll leave a link in the description and put it in my Amazon store. Well, look at that. There's connectors down in here. I think we found these 17 pin 4 and 17 pin 1 connectors. I didn't feel like it was in there very well. I'm just going to reseat them all and then see if the horn works. Keys on, hitting the button. Nothing. Darn it, Marge, it's just a horn here. Why are we even in this box? I think it's one of these wires, and it looks like it goes into this connector and turns around and goes right back out. Nice. If I had to guess, I'd say it's this one, which would make it this one. Yeah, I think so. And that says 6. And that is our wire. So now I need to see where that's going. All right, I just got underneath and I toned that wire all the way back to the box, showing continuous all the way to the pin that it's supposed to be on. And I thought, oh yeah, I still had that junction unplugged. So I plugged it back in, and so that was the problem. I needed to reseat those junctions that are right there. Why they're there, I don't know. That's kind of annoying. It's not exactly an easy place to reach, but reseating those fixed the problem. And really, what are the chances that after I get this horn working and the machine is sitting there idle for a couple days, it suddenly loses connection at these junctions? Come on, Marge. Well, that was fun. So this is a piece of oak that has, I think, some really interesting grain. It's also got a lot of cracks. A lot of bug damage on that end. So if you look down in there, there are some dowel pins sticking out that help hold the joystick together when it's installed. So I am going to use this wooden dowel, and using calipers I've located that right there is where I need to drill it. So I'm rotating it as I drill so that it will even things out and make sure that the hole goes perfectly vertical and straight down through. At least that was the plan. Does that hole look a little bit off center? So now I'm locating where those bolts are going to be. Now this plastic, it's about 1/8 of an inch on each side that they left, which would be like 3 millimeters. I'm going to leave a 1/4 inch, which will be 6 millimeters. That's countersink for the bolt head. I actually should have gone all the way through with this. This is clearance for the bolt, because I need to get these holes on both sides. Now I'll do countersink for this side, and I've got a mark on the bit so I don't drill too deep. And now I'm going to use this milling bit because I want a flat bottom on those holes. Alright, let's see if I measured right. 1 1/16. Yep, that's what we wanted. So I was expecting to be able to get a much better grip with it in the chuck, and I'm seeing now I should not have turned it down as far as I did. Yeah, that should be fine. So I decided to drill from the other side as well to increase their chances of meeting in the middle. They're both starting on center, of course, but it's hard to keep wood perfectly on center. This long bit should be able to reach all the way through. Are you even serious right now? That is where that bit came out. Wood tends to be less precise than metal, but not that bad. Let's try from this side and hopefully this one will come out right. Well, this is not going well. Well, that didn't work. Alright, well that was stupid. I think I can still recover from this. Can't believe how terrible that drilled out. What I'm going to do is plug the holes with some 3/16 dowel. Those are 3/16 holes. Then we're going to flatten that, and yeah, then you'll see. We'll get it. So that was a 3/16 hole I was trying to drill. Look at that. That's ridiculous. And this is a 3/16 ball nose end mill. So if I could just run that right down the middle and take out half the circle on both sides, that would solve my problem. But how am I going to pull that off? Well, I could do it in my metal mill here. Just clamp this baby down. So the problem with that is, I mean, I've got it, and it's actually fairly secure, but if it moves, it's probably going to scrap the part. So I need a better way to hold that in place. See what I can come up with. So here's my solution. I've got a big clamp holding these down so that the little clamps have something to hold on to. And I'm clamping a flat here and a flat here that basically holds that side down. Well, both sides are held down so it can't rotate. It's trapped. Should work, right? I think that's just barely gonna work. We've got clearance, Clarence. All right, cross your fingers. Let's see if this works. So I'm going at 1180 RPM. See here. So I'm 98 thousandths, and this is a 3/16 hole, half of a hole. Should be 94. So 4 thousandths too deep. I'll take it. So I now have a perfect hole right up the middle, in spite of it fighting with me the whole way. And these patches, none of these are going to be visible except probably that one. Now obviously the idea with the newspaper was I was going to drill this out and then turn it down and then be able to pop it apart and put it back together, you know, assembled on the machine, because you have to assemble it in two halves, so I can't just turn it as one piece. And if you turn it and then cut it with a saw, you're going to lose your saw kerf and the result is not round. But that newspaper allows you to pop it apart and then you know, put it back together and it'll still be round. So that was the idea. But now at this point, I think we're going to use our bolt holes on this side, a hose clamp on this side, which I'll have to move around a little bit, and I think I will just proceed with turning it. So I have more drilling to do on this. Now that I have this center there, I don't think it's going to be an issue. This should follow it. So I need to do up this to 1/4 inch all the way through, and then later I'm going to have to do 7/8 up to like there, like 1 3/4 inches in. This is kind of a tricky part to make out of wood, it turns out. Now the real trick. I have some more drilling to do on this. I need to drill 3/8 almost all the way through, and then I need to drill 7/8 like 1 1/4 inch deep. That's so it can fit over the metal piece that's coming up out of the control valves. I think I can just do it on the drill press, just kind of stepwise my way up it, but not sure. We'll just have to see how it goes. Try not to screw it up. Too much work in this at this point. Not loving that. Little sketchy. All right, that step is done. Man, well, I just drilled that from the wrong side. I was supposed to be that way. That sucks. All right, so I just drilled a 1/4 inch hole in the end of a 3/8 dowel. 1/4 inch is what I need, 3/8 is what I drilled. And now I'm cutting off exactly what I didn't want to drill out. And then I'm just going to glue this in. This is necessary because of the horn switch. If there wasn't a horn switch, this would be a lot easier to make. I hope I didn't put too much glue in there. I'm just going to let that sit for a few minutes and then I'm going to try to split it open because I need that to be in half. If it wasn't for fixing all my screw-ups, I'd probably be done by now. It worked. Alright, so now I need to carve out a little pocket here for the body of the switch. The horn switch has to have some room in there. And then I will be drilling that. I think I'm going to do that downstairs on the metal lathe because I think it's going to be much more controllable and make me less likely to break this thing. Luckily, none of this is going to be visible. I just need to make room. Let's do this one the easier way. Alright, so that is 15 thousandths too small. The next size up, a 7/8 bit, would be 40 thousandths too big, and I don't want to do that. So I'm hoping I put some PSA sandpaper on this piece of 3/4 rod, and it just barely fits in there. And I'm hoping I can just kind of sand that 15 thousandths out of it. And that took a few thousandths out of it. That's perfect. That should actually go on now. So this is a piece of scrap brass that I melted before. This is just one of the leftovers. Oftentimes when I'm melting, if there's some left over, I'll have a place just to dump it to make something just like this. So I didn't feel like trying to mill those in to this narrow piece of wood was going to be real successful. It might have worked, but I decided to go a different route, and it actually kills two birds with one stone, because this hole that went off center at the top is visible, but I'm just going to attach the two with a washer, and it's going to cover all that up. I feel like those holes even wandered. This stuff is just really hard to drill, and very hard to drill straight. Remember this hole I drilled through while it was still square? Well, it went off center too. You know, I really think the grain pattern in here is what's making drilling this so difficult, and it's a hardwood. It's just pushing the bits around. Because usually, you know, wood is not as accurate as drilling steel, but it doesn't do that. Anyway, I'm only going to pin one side. I put it in there. That one's going to work, even though it's slightly off center. But I've got to file that down to make it presentable. And that one I'm just going to plug. This thing's turned out to be a little more difficult to make than I had originally anticipated, of course. You can't feel it. That'll work. Yeah, that feels good in the hand. Shut up, it's my left hand. So that was an absurd amount of work. And was it worth it? Absolutely not, and 100% yes. at the same time. How cool is that? Well, at the risk of jinxing myself, I think these have a really good chance of working loose, so I am going to Loctite them. I have some low strength Loctite, and I think I'm going to use that, because trying to heat this would be tough, obviously. Loctite 222, it is red, the tube, but it's low strength. So yeah, that's a perfect use for this. Yeah, this stuff is actually purple. So we finally have all those things fixed. The final drive's filled with oil, the horn works, and the fan is mounted and works. And yeah, I'm totally aware I could have 3D printed one of those. I just would have spent many hours at a computer struggling trying to model that thing and get it to fit right. Probably would have had to print it a few times to work with that button and everything. No thanks. I think that's way cooler and a lot more fun. And you might ask, what about the other side? Well, maybe in the future. I'm not doing it now. You know, if I ever do put a hydraulic thumb on this thing, I'm going to need a place to control it. And a button on that side would make perfect sense. So there you go, guys. That's a wrap for this video. And I only have one more video, actually two more things to do. Next video, we're going to be doing some more custom fabrication. And then after that, everything that currently needs done for Marge will be done. How about that? The video after that is going to be painting. And, wonder what color I should paint her. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.